Today I'm going to be talking about Alright, so Guillermo del Toro has a new movie called Pinocchio, and the plot for it is pretty much this. A father's wish magically brings a wooden boy to life in Italy, giving him a chance to care for the child. Alright, let's get into the good parts of this movie, and the first thing I'm going to say is that the dynamic between Geppetto and Pinocchio was probably the best part of this movie. Although in the first 15 minutes we see Geppetto and his actual son, and that, first 10-15 minutes was done very well, and it makes you engaged in Geppetto's, character arc for the rest of the movie. But Geppetto and Pinocchio's dynamic was really just 10 times better than the first 10-15 minutes because we actually have more time to spend with the characters. And also, Geppetto and, Pinocchio's relationship isn't exactly the best. Like, it's not like, sunshine and rainbows every single scene, which I like because it actually gives the character or both of the characters more depth to them instead of having them just, be happy all the time, because no real relationship is like that. Also, Guillermo del Toro, this is a highlight. You still have those Guillermo del Toro isms in there, if you could say. But once again, this is a kid's movie at the end of the day, so he doesn't go too crazy, but I would say he goes more crazy in the designs of the creatures and the characters themselves. Another good thing that I'll say about this movie is that it's actually funny. Usually when I watch a kids movie, there's usually just dumb kids stuff in there. But in this movie, there was genuine moments that were actually funny. And the movie's not like laugh out loud funny like other kids movies or comedies in general. But it is more of like a subtle humor. So my concern for the movie would be maybe kids wouldn't get the subtle humor, or maybe they will. Also, all of the performances in this movie are all very well done, and although I know that there's a lot of really big names in this movie, the biggest star and the biggest stealer was actually the kid that played Pinocchio. I don't know the kid's name, but that kid's got a future. Plus, he made me really care about Pinocchio, even though Pinocchio is this like ignorant, irresponsible kid, but he also plays it in a way where that Pinocchio is his heart's in the right place. Another thing that I like about this movie is the animation style. It seems like stop motion animation is starting to make a comeback, which I am not complaining about, because I remember in the early 2000s and maybe 90s there were a lot of stop motion animation movies or TV shows, and it seems like that's kind of gone away. So it's glad that movies like Wendell and Wild and this Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is adding stop motion animation. Another good thing that I'll say about this movie is that there's not, forced musical sequences. When I saw on Google that this was a animated musical, I was really concerned because I thought it was going to be like, a number every couple of minutes. But there actually isn't that many musical sequences in this movie. I could probably count the amount of them on one hand, which I'm glad. And, when the music does come, I'm actually not as mad about it. Another good thing that I'll say before I get into my only criticism of this movie is the fact that this movie is not predictable. And I would say maybe the first half of the movie is predictable, but I'm telling you right now, the final 45-30 minutes of this movie, I was genuinely concerned with what was going to happen. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I'm just going to say that, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I was like, is this character going to die? Is this character going to die? Who is this person gonna do that? Who knows? Like, I was genuinely engaged, which is something that doesn't really happen in kids movies. Usually in kids movies, you can tell what's going to happen, like from the beginning of the movie. But in this movie, I was genuinely concerned and I genuinely cared about the characters. Alright, let's get into some of my criticisms, and actually my only criticism, and it's the fact that the first hour of this movie is just really slow and sometimes even boring at times. And I understand that it has to introduce all the characters and the world, but sometimes it's just not interesting. But aside from that, I think after the first hour, that's when the movie just gets really good. It goes from like a decent movie to a great one. And overall, guys, this movie is probably the surprise of the year for me. Obviously, we had a Pinocchio movie that came out like I think 1 or 2 months ago, and that one was not well received. But this one I think is probably much better than the one that came out from Disney. I'm going to go ahead and give Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio a 9 out of 10. Have you seen this movie? Did you like it as much as I did? Or did you not like it? Let me know in the comments. And those are my thoughts on that.